The Lubicon Cree live in Northern Alberta, about 475 kilometers north of Edmonton. In 1940, the Government of Canada promised them a reserve. This promise has not been kept. In October 1983, a report issued by the World Council of Churches concluded that the Alberta government and dozens of multinational oil companies had taken actions which could have genocidal consequences for the Lubicon Cree. In 1990, the UN Human Rights Committee concluded that Canada had violated the Lubicon's rights and continues to violate their rights. The committee's report declared that the Lubicon could not achieve effective legal or political redress in Canada. The committee ordered Canada to stop all activity within the Lubicon area. Canada violated that order. In 1993, the UN asked Canada for a response regarding the Lubicon situation. Canada ignored that request. There have been no negotiations between the Government of Canada and the Lubicon since 1989, when the government tabled an unacceptable take-it-or-leave-it offer, which would have meant continued dependence on welfare for the Lubicon people.
I'd sometimes reflect back to 1990, June 1st, of watching the provincial lawyers which was our last meeting as far as negotiations were concerned, of them sitting there, and while I was sitting across the table and looking at these people, and knowingly or not knowingly, directly or indirectly, were responsible in one way or another of the loss of life in our community. And what have they actually done in this community when it was within their power as elected members of a legislature or parliament to correct the wrong that's been done in this community, and yet for the sake of their jobs have basically kept their mouth shut. And what keeps me going is to see them out and the land claim settled.
Well, it seems like they were too willing. They were, it seems to me at first that they were really willing to negotiate, but they weren't. We should have known that right off the bat, but they caught us in the right for a while, and once we knew that it wasn't going to work out, once we started working on the numbers and stuff, and everything started to break down, and it was all bullshit. After we went through that once, you have no faith in the government at all after that. No matter what they tell us now, I still don't believe in them. I could listen to them, but I don't believe them anymore.
this whole territory that we've occupied for many, many years is still ours. We've never been a party to any treaty that is made, so that whole question is there. But in finding a lot of natural resources within our traditional territory, this, it's led to a lot of difficulties for our people. While everybody else is benefiting from our resources, we're subject to welfare.
I've seen poverty firsthand. When I was driving a medical van here, I used to take people in to Peace River for their medical appointments. Some people didn't go because they went to food banks to get food, which there was no need for it because they live in a very rich area of this country. There should be no welfare in this community. I have seen sickness, which should be unacceptable in any community in Canada. We had an outbreak of TB, where a lot of our people were sent to Edmonton. And now I'm going to be seeing the total destruction of the forests in this area. And when that is destroyed, that'll destroy our people here in Little Buffalo. I don't know if the general public or the Canadian people are aware. It is not only the Lubicon people that are going to lose. It's the Canadian people. We're all going to be losers on this. These politicians that are selling out this country should be accountable for it. Not only to the Lubicon people, but to the rest of the Canadian people. That's treason when you sell out your country.
The Lubicon have no running water. They use outdoor toilets year-round. They truck in drinking water and store it outdoors in metal drums or plastic containers.
I don't know how to best explain it, but it certainly has, changed drastically from where we started. For example, the people, it was less than 10% of our people when we started out on welfare. Today it's up to 90%, and on the average it's around there. Where, it's led to many, many social problems within the community, to many deaths. And it seems like the more deaths in the community, the happier the governments get, which is sad. But I guess that's the intent of and the will of the government, especially the federal government, to rather do away with the Lubicon people, so they don't have to deal with them in the long run. What I've really noticed is that when people, at the outset, when someone is getting welfare, they seem to have a hard time, coming in and asking for that help. Within 6 months to a year, it gets easier and easier, and finally they demand it, and they figure it's a paycheck. And at the same time, while that is going on one hand, it makes it easier. Their pride seems to just go down, you know, where it's really next to nothing. And it's really sad to see something like that, you know, your own people in that situation. But and hopefully that our younger generation doesn't get caught up in that same cycle, even though now would be the time to deal with a lot of that while they're young, in order for us to be able to make a different, you know, an adjustment if an adjustment has to be made.
I have one story that relates to education again, and it was a brief snapshot that really struck me at the time. We went to, when kids here go to ECS or kindergarten, they have a graduation at the end of the year, just like I did when in my predominantly non-native school, when I went from kindergarten to grade 1. And at the graduation, all the little kids have little blue hats on and little blue gowns, and they march in and sit on a stage and get certificates, and there was a cake there, and the parents were all dressed up. But no one in that room was wearing moccasins. No one in that room played a drum. There were no elders there. So rather than involving the community in what could have been a step, you know, in education for empowering this nation, it was clearly, in every symbol, a step away from Cree culture and molding them into, I don't know what, as white a mold as we could make.
I worked in the school for 3 weeks, and after just 4 days in the classroom, I felt so out of focus and so incredibly uncomfortable that I discovered that I had to resign. After I had a little time to think about what was going on, I was just staggered by the extent of the colonialism that I experienced in the school, and realized that what I was being expected to teach was to teach the kids the culture that had destroyed their culture.
A lot of the curriculum is geared towards trying to, not so much outright, but in the long run, in a hidden way, build this kind of racist attitude towards Native people, towards our kids, because they're Native. And in fact, I've seen some of them say they don't want, you know, they want to be like this white man because, you know, he has everything and he's got the brains and so on. For example, there's no need for my kids to be learning about Columbus. I think my kids should be learning of what is happening today, what is happening to other people, whether they're Native people or non-Native people. All these issues should be, discussed in school. And for example, the Constitution, there's been a lot of rhetoric about the Constitution. We had the referendum, the Charlottetown Accord, Meech Lake. All these things, they're all important to Aboriginal people. But they don't know anything about that. For example, a lot of them I don't think understand what is the difference between the provincial government and federal government. So a lot of these stuff are kept from them, which they should be learning.
Next time, I'm not gonna fall.
Can you give us an idea of what the young people here feel, and if they feel that there's any hope for a just settlement?
Most of them, I don't think, feel anything because they don't really know what's going on.
Well, I think one of the things that as Native people and for myself, I've been brought up surviving off the land. So everything that we done was dependent on the land. For example, hunting and trapping. These are things that we were brought up to respect. We had to respect the land, as our life was more or less dependent on it. We had to use the many different herbs and the many different trees. Everything that's on our area, we learned to survive off. So you cannot destroy one thing and expect to have something else there, or any of the other things, and you destroy one, which in turn affects the whole thing. We were brought up in a way to respect all things and all living things, and because the more, if you preserve, then you have something for tomorrow or for the future. And that's the kind of process that we were brought up in. And today, well, it's a whole different story, because what we preserved for many hundreds of years, the oil companies and the governments have destroyed within 10-15 years. And I've seen a lot of our elders go out into the different areas of our traditional area, and with tears in their eyes, having lived and survived for many years, and all of a sudden, it's gone. You're actually looking at it and it's just disappearing.
Dayashawa here, I believe it was 1988, told Bernard that they would not log in our area until land claims were settled. That was a lie. And everything that grows on this earth was put there for a reason. The very air we breathe comes from plant life. What are we going to do? Suffocate? If we don't stop this insanity about logging? Just money talking, greed. We have got to put pressure on Dayashawa and these governments and the oil companies. The last I heard that the oil companies had taken something like over $7 billion of oil on Lubicon land. We are asking for not even 1% of what's been taken off our land. Now, if that isn't greed, I don't know what it is.
Between 1978 and 1982, 400 oil and gas wells were drilled within 15 miles of the Lubicon community.
The shower have been out for a couple of years, and it looks like that they want to come back in this fall. And there, I think it's going to be a very serious situation if they keep pushing and push our people to take a stand. So we would welcome any kind of support we can get in trying to fend off the shower and the clear-cut logging that they're trying to do within our traditional territory. Trying to let the shower know that that they're not prepared to sit by and watch some clear-cut the Lubicon.
We Indian people, we're not trying to destroy this country. We depend on it. If we could get a just settlement here in Little Buffalo with these people, then we can do something. We'll have a future for our kids. Something for them to look forward to and to work for. But we need that chance, and we need the help from the outside to be able to do it. We can't do it by ourselves. We're too small. There's only 500 of us.
We're so dependent on other people to try and get as much support as we can, especially with people like Shawa who have all kinds of money, and they seem to have a lot of say within the Alberta government and a lot of say with the federal government. So it's hard battling these big multinational corporations, and I hope that there are enough people who understand that and who care enough for all people of this world to try and help in every way possible. As long as the will is there, then we've got every chance to succeed if we can get something that's fair and just for our people. But time, we're fighting against time, and we realize that, and the other side knows that. So we just got to do the best we can.
If we're to get back up on our feet and to keep going and to pick up the morale, it's going to take a lot of time. Even if you have a united community, the fact still remains that you have to deal with the losses that have occurred in the past few years in this community. And that by no means is that going to be easy. And when people are feeling the losses of those people, that their own children, it's no wonder they feel alone. Because while they're at home grieving, while logging companies are coming in and destroying what they've been fighting for.
In 1994, Unocal, a multinational oil and gas company, constructed a sour gas processing plant on the edge of the proposed Lubicon Reserve. Additional plants are being considered.